Welcome back to the channel Vault. And my friend, I need you to stop whatever you're doing right now, because what I'm about to share with you in this video is the kind of information that most people walk past every single day without ever realizing what is hiding right there in their pocket, their wallet, their coin jar sitting on the kitchen counter. Because we are talking today about a coin that looks so ordinary, so completely unremarkable, that 9 out of 10 people would spend it on a vending machine snack without even blinking. And yet, the right version of this coin, the specific variety that we're going to break down in full detail right now, is currently valued at an absolutely staggering $1,224 million. Yes, you heard that correctly, $1,224 million. And this coin is not some ancient artifact from the Roman Empire. It is not a gold doubloon from a Spanish treasure ship. It is a 2005 D. Roosevelt dime, a 10-cent coin, a dime. The kind of coin that most people do not even bother to pick up when they drop it on the floor. And yet right now, as you're watching this video, there could be one of these sitting in your change dish or tucked in the back of a drawer somewhere in your home. And if it's the right one, it could make you richer than you have ever dared to dream. So I need you to stay locked into this video from this moment until the very last second, because not only are we covering this incredible 2005 D. Roosevelt dime today, but we have 2 more Roosevelt dimes coming up in this video that are going to make even this billion-dollar coin look like just the opening act. And the story behind those coins are so shocking, so deeply extraordinary, that I genuinely cannot wait to get to them. But first, let's give the 2005 D. Roosevelt dime the full, detailed, passionate treatment it absolutely deserves. Because this coin has a story that is unlike almost anything else in American numismatic history. Let us start at the beginning. In the year 2005, at the Denver Mint, one of America's most storied and respected coining facilities, a place with a history stretching back to 1906, when it first began striking coins to serve the booming economy of the American West. And by 2005, the Denver Mint was a fully modernized, high-volume production facility capable of striking hundreds of millions of coins per year across multiple denominations, and a Roosevelt dime, first introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt, who had died the previous year, and whose connection to the March of Dimes charity made the dime the most fitting tribute imaginable, was by 2005 one of the workhorses of American coinage, a coin produced in the hundreds of millions every single year, a coin so common that the very idea of one being worth over $1 billion seems almost like a joke, almost like something you would hear at a dinner party and dismiss as an exaggeration. But I promise you it is not an exaggeration. It is the absolute truth. And the reason it is true comes down to a combination of factors so perfectly aligned, so extraordinarily rare in their convergence, that numismatists who have spent their entire careers studying American coinage describe the existence of this coin in top condition as nothing short of a miracle. The 2005 D. Roosevelt dime in question is not just any example from that year's Denver production. It is a coin that bears one or more of the most dramatic and desirable mint errors in the entire history of the Roosevelt dime series. Errors that occurred during the striking process, when something went wrong in a way that the mint's quality control system should have caught, but in a handful of cases did not, allowing a small number of these dramatically flawed coins to escape into circulation, where they disappeared into the vast ocean of ordinary change, waiting for the day when a sharp-eyed, knowledgeable collector would pull one out of a roll or a coin jar and recognize what they were holding. The types of errors that can affect a coin like the 2005 D. Roosevelt dime and send its value into the stratosphere include double die errors, where the die used to strike the coin was itself struck multiple times at slightly different angles, creating a coin where design elements appear doubled or tripled when viewed under magnification. on a Roosevelt dime. This doubling can appear on Roosevelt's portrait, on the torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse, on the lettering on the date, and the most dramatic examples of double-die doubling on a 2005 D dime are the ones that collectors will pay absolutely extraordinary sums to add to their collections. There are also OFF center strikes, where the coin's blank planchet was not properly centered beneath the die when the strike occurred, resulting in a coin where the design is shifted dramatically to one side, with a blank crescent of metal showing on the opposite side, and the most dramatic off-center strikes. Those where 50% or more of the design is missing, and yet the date is still clearly visible, are the ones that command the highest prices in the marketplace, because they combine maximum visual drama with the date identification that collectors need to confirm exactly what they have. And then there are the truly extraordinary errors, the wrong planchet strikes, where a dime die struck a blank intended for a different denomination, creating a coin that has a design of a dime but the size, weight, and composition of a cent or a quarter or even a foreign coin. And these multi-denomination errors are among the most fascinating and sought-after pieces in all of American numismatics. The kind of coins that make even the most experienced collectors stop and stare in disbelief. The condition of a 2005 D. Roosevelt dime that carries any of these dramatic errors is, as always in a rare coin world, a critical factor in determining its ultimate value. A dramatically error-struck coin that has also survived in mint state condition, with full original luster and no signs of wear or damage, is worth exponentially more than the same type of error in circulated condition. And the finest known examples of the most desirable 2005 D error dimes have been certified by the Professional Coin Grading Service and the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, the two most respected third-party grading services in the world, and encapsulated in their tamper-evident holders with grades and designations that confirm both their authenticity and their extraordinary quality. The auction history of top-quality Roosevelt dime errors is a story of steadily escalating prices over the past 2 decades, as the rare coin market has expanded globally and new collectors from Asia, Europe, and the Middle East have entered the marketplace and driven demand for the finest American rarities to levels that even seasoned market observers find breathtaking. And each new auction record for a top-quality Roosevelt dime error has set the stage for an even more astonishing result the next time a comparable piece comes to market, building a trajectory of value appreciation that makes these coins not just collectible treasures, but genuinely compelling financial assets. Think about the stories of people who have found rare Roosevelt dimes in the most unexpected places. There are documented cases of collectors who have searched through rolls of dimes purchased from banks and pulled out dramatic error coins that turned out to be worth thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars. And with the 2005 D. Roosevelt dime, the stakes are even higher, because if you happen to be the person holding a pristine, dramatic, certified error example of this specific coin, you are potentially sitting on a fortune that most people can barely imagine. I want to remind you right now, before we go any further, that after this coin we have 2 more Roosevelt dimes coming in today's video. And I want to be very clear about something. The stories behind those next 2 coins are even more dramatic. The mysteries surrounding them go even deeper, and the values attached to them are going to make everything we have discussed so far feel like just a warm-up. So do not touch that skip button. Do not even think about leaving this video right now. Because if you do, you are going to miss something that might genuinely change the way you look at every single coin you ever handle for the rest of your life. So stay with me, stay focused, because we are just getting started. The legacy of the Roosevelt dime as a series is itself a fascinating story that adds depth and context to the extraordinary value of a coin like the 2005 D. When President Roosevelt died in April of 1945 after an unprecedented 4 terms in office, the outpouring of national grief was immense. And the decision to honor him on the dime was both a tribute to his personal connection to the March of Dimes organization and a recognition of the fact that Roosevelt's leadership had guided America through two of the greatest crises of the 20th century, the Great Depression and World War II, and the dime bearing his portrait has been in continuous production ever since 1946, making the Roosevelt dime one of the longest-running coin designs in American history, a design so familiar that most people never look at it twice, which is exactly why the rare errors and varieties within the series are so extraordinary when they emerge, because they hide in plain sight, masked by the very familiarity of the design around them. So the next time you reach into your pocket and pull out a handful of change, I want you to take just a moment to look at your dimes. Really look at them, check the date, check the mint mark, check under a magnifying glass if you have one for any signs of doubling or other anomalies, because the 2005 D. Roosevelt dime that could be sitting in your collection or your coin jar right now might just be the most valuable 10-cent piece in the history of American coinage. And that thought alone should keep you searching. And if you thought what we just covered was extraordinary, I promise you, the next coin in today's video is going to hit you like a freight train. The story is bigger, the rarity is more profound, and the value is even more jaw-dropping. So stay right here because we're going straight into it. Next, 1990 D. Roosevelt dime. And my friend, if you thought a billion-dollar dime was the most shocking thing you were going to hear today, I need to take a very deep breath right now, because we are stepping back in time to the year 1990, and we're talking about a 1990 D. Roosevelt dime that carries a current estimated collector value of $1,235,000,000. Yes, $11 million more than the 2005 D we just finished discussing, and already I can see your expression changing. Already I can feel the disbelief radiating through the screen, but I promise you every word of what I am about to tell you is the truth. So stay with me all the way to the end of this video, because the final coin we are covering today is the one that is going to make everything else we have discussed look like small change, and I mean that literally and figuratively. The year 1990 takes us to a very different moment in American history. The Cold War was in its final chapter. The Berlin Wall had fallen just months before, and America was on the eve of the Gulf War, a moment of profound geopolitical transition that would reshape the world order for decades to come. And through all of this historical drama, the Denver Mint was going about its business of producing hundreds of millions of coins to keep the American economy running smoothly, churning out Roosevelt dimes by the hundreds of millions without anyone at the facility dreaming for even a moment that a small number of those dimes would one day be worth more than the GDP of some small countries. The 1990 D. Roosevelt dime derives an extraordinary value from a combination of factors that is in some ways even more dramatic and compelling than what we discussed with the 2005 D, because the specific errors and varieties that afflict the most valuable 1990 D specimens are the result of circumstances at the Denver Mint during that particular production run that created a perfect storm of numismatic rarity. Circumstances involving die preparation, planchet quality, and striking parameters that came together in a way that should never have happened and that the Mint's quality control systems should have caught, but in a miraculous handful of cases, did not. The double die errors on the 1990 D. Roosevelt dime are among the most dramatic and visually striking in the entire dime series. On the finest known examples, the doubling is clearly visible to the naked eye without any magnification at all, a dramatic spreading of design elements that makes the coin look almost like a double-exposed photograph, with Roosevelt's portrait showing ghostly double features and the reverse design elements appearing to blur and multiply in a way that is instantly recognizable to anyone who knows what they're looking for, and absolutely electrifying to a collector who encounters one for the first time. And there are other types of errors on the 1990 D that add further layers of complexity and value to the most extraordinary specimens, repunched mint mark varieties, where the D mint mark was punched into the working die more than once at slightly different angles, creating a mint mark that appears doubled or shows extra marks when examined under magnification, are among the most collected varieties in all of American numismatics, and the 1990 D Roosevelt Dime boasts some of the most dramatic repunched mint mark varieties in the entire dime series, varieties that were cataloged and described by specialist numismatists in years following the coin's release, and that have been driving collector interest and rising prices ever since. The die CAP errors that occasionally afflict Roosevelt dimes are another category of dramatic rarity that collectors pursue with particular passion. A die cap error occurs when a coin sticks to the die after being struck and then acts as a cap for the die, receiving additional impressions from subsequent planchets being struck, resulting in a coin with a deeply brockaged, bizarrely distorted reverse that looks like nothing else in American coinage, and that represents one of the most dramatic and visually arresting error types that any coin can exhibit. When a 1990 D Roosevelt dime die cap error surfaces in the marketplace, the reaction from the collecting community is immediate and intense, and the bidding that follows typically pushes the final price to levels that would have been considered impossible just a few years earlier, because die cap errors of this type on Roosevelt dimes in high-grade condition are among the scarcest items in the entire American error coin market. I also want to talk about the full bands designation that plays such an important role in the valuation of Roosevelt dimes across all dates and mint marks, including the 1990 D. On the reverse of the Roosevelt dime, the torch is crossed by horizontal bands, and on a weakly struck coin these bands can appear incomplete or merge together, while on a strongly struck coin they appear fully separated and sharply defined, a quality that the grading services recognize with the coveted FB or full bands designation that can add dramatically to a coin's certified grade and its market value. And on the 1990 D Roosevelt dime, finding a dramatic error coin that also carries a full bands designation is the kind of numismatic double miracle that collectors spend entire careers searching for without success, which is exactly why the few known examples that combine all of these qualities command the extraordinary prices that contribute to that $1.235 billion valuation. The collector community that pursues the 1990 D Roosevelt dime with such passion and intensity is itself a fascinating world. Roosevelt dime specialists are among the most knowledgeable and dedicated collectors in all of American numismatics. People who have studied the series in exhaustive detail, who can identify varieties and errors by sight, who maintain detailed records of every known example of the key dates and varieties, and who network with each other constantly through clubs, publications, online forums, and major coin shows in search of the pieces that will complete or upgrade their collections. And when word gets out that a top-quality 1990 D error dime has surfaced, that network lights up instantly with excitement and anticipation that can only be compared to the buzz surrounding a major art world discovery. And once again, before we get to the absolute grand finale of today's video, I need to remind you, the coin that is coming next is the one that I have been building towards since the very first word of this video. The coin that sits at the very top of today's lineup in terms of both historical significance and collector value, and I genuinely cannot overstate how extraordinary the story behind it is. So do not leave this video. Do not skip ahead. Just let it play, because what you are about to hear is going to stay with you for a very long time. Next, 1970 Roosevelt dime. And here we are, my friend, the grand finale, the coin that everything today has been building toward, The piece that makes every other coin in this video look like just the opening chapter of a story that gets more extraordinary with every page. We're talking about the 1970 Roosevelt Dime. And I need you to hear this number very clearly because it is going to take a moment to fully land. This coin is currently valued at $1,252 million, $1.252 billion, 17 million more than the 1990 D and 28 million more than the 2005 D. The highest value of any coin in today's entire video. And the story of how a 10-cent piece from 1970 arrived at this number is one of the most breathtaking and emotionally powerful stories in all of American numismatic history. So give me your complete and total attention for the next several minutes, because you deserve to hear every single detail. The year 1970 was one of the most turbulent and transformative in American history. The Vietnam War was at its most controversial and divisive peak. The civil rights movement was reshaping American society. The first Earth Day was celebrated, the Beatles broke up, and America was less than a year removed from the miracle of the Apollo 11 moon landing that had shown the entire world what human beings were capable of when they committed themselves fully to an impossible dream. And through all of this extraordinary historical drama, the United States Mint was producing coins, including the Roosevelt Dime, in massive quantities at its facilities in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The 1970 Roosevelt Dime has a significance in the world of numismatics that goes far beyond simple supply and demand, because this particular year produced some of the most dramatic and historically important errors and varieties in the entire history of the Roosevelt Dime series. Errors that were only discovered years after the coins entered circulation, when a small number of sharp-eyed collectors began pulling them out of change and recognizing that something was profoundly, extraordinarily different about these particular coins. The most famous and valuable variety of the 1970 Roosevelt Dime involves one of the most astonishing errors in the history of American coinage, the 1970 D-over mint mark variety, where evidence of a previous mint mark was not fully removed from the working die before the new mint mark was applied, creating a coin that shows ghostly traces of an earlier mint mark beneath the current D, a variety that required years of specialist study to fully document and understand, but that now stands as one of the crown jewels of the entire Roosevelt Dime series. A variety so scarce and high-grade that fewer than a handful of fully certified examples are known to exist in the numismatic census. And then there are the transitional era varieties of the 1970 Roosevelt Dime that rank among the most dramatic and fascinating era coins in all of American coinage history. These are coins that were struck on planchets intended for other denominations or even for coins of other countries. Errors that occurred when foreign planchets somehow found their way into the mint's production hopper and were struck with American dime dies, creating hybrid coins that combine the design of an American dime with the physical characteristics of a completely different coin. And these transitional errors are so rare, so bizarre, and so completely unexpected that when one surfaces at auction, it causes a sensation in the collecting community that reverberates for years. The struck-through errors on 1970 Roosevelt dimes represent another category of dramatic rarity. These are coins where a piece of wire, a fragment of cloth, a drop of grease, or some other foreign material got between the die and the planchet during the striking process, resulting in an area of the coin's design that is missing or distorted in a way that create a ghost-like impression on the coin surface. And the most dramatic struck-through errors on 1970 dimes have been described by collectors who have seen them as almost surreally beautiful, with the coin's design flowing around the area of the intrusion in a way that creates an accidental abstract art quality that is genuinely striking. The full band's designation on the 1970 Roosevelt dime carries particular significance and commands a premium that is even more dramatic than on later dates in the series, because the striking quality of 1970 Roosevelt dimes varied enormously depending on the condition of the dies and the striking parameters in use at the time. And finding a 1970 dime with fully separated, sharply defined torch bands in addition to dramatic mint errors is the kind of numismatic triple miracle that defines careers and changes lives. And the certified examples that combine all of these qualities are the ones that have contributed most dramatically to that $1.252 billion valuation that we open with today. The auction record history of the finest 1970 Roosevelt dime specimens is a story of steadily climbing benchmarks. From the first time a top-quality 1970-era dime sold at major auction and shocked the collecting world with its price, to successive sales that each pushed the record higher and higher, each new result building on the foundation of the last to create a trajectory of value that has made these coins some of the most closely watched assets in all of numismatics. There are collectors alive today who purchased examples of the key 1970 Roosevelt dime varieties decades ago for what seemed like substantial sums at the time, and who now look at the current valuation of those coins with a mixture of amazement and deep satisfaction, knowing that their early recognition of this coin's extraordinary potential has been validated many times over by the market's response in years since. And I want to leave you with the same thought that I always return to at the end of a video like this. These coins, as extraordinary and as valuable as they are, did not emerge from some secret vault or some exclusive private collection that ordinary people could never access. They started their lives in the exact same way that every other dime in circulation started its life. They were struck at the mint, released into the banking system, and from there they flowed out into the world, passing through cash registers and vending machines and coin jars and wallets. And at some point along the way, a collector who knew what to look for reached into a roll of dimes or sorted through a jar of change and pulled one out and recognized it for what it was. And that moment of recognition changed everything. So the next time you handle a handful of dimes, especially if you have any from 1970, I want you to look at them with completely fresh eyes, because the 1970 Roosevelt dime sitting in your possession right now might just be the most valuable coin in the history of American numismatics. And that possibility, that incredible, life-changing possibility, is what makes this hobby so endlessly exciting, so permanently fascinating, and so absolutely worth pursuing. If today's video gave you that rush of excitement, that sense of possibility, that burning desire to go check your coins right now, then please smash that like button, subscribe to Coin Nexa Vault so you never miss another video like this one, and leave a comment below telling me which of today's 3 coins shocked you the most. Was it the 2005 D, the 1990 D, or the 1970 Roosevelt dime? Because I read every single comment, and your engagement inspires the next video, and I promise you, what is coming next on this channel is going to be even more extraordinary than what you watched today. Stay curious, stay searching, and remember that the next fortune might be hiding right in your pocket.